And we're live. Hello guys, hope everyone's doing okay. So, yep, posted this to Facebook. As always, when I'm starting a new stream, I actually have enthusiasm for the project. So I figured rather than start tomorrow, I may as well start today. It'd be good to kind of get on with something new. So yeah, kind of glad the other one's over. That went for 6 months, granted with a 2-month break, but still. So, new project, what we're doing. Well, one of kind of the artists, like historical artists that I look at the most is a guy called Gustave Dore. He's a French artist from the 1800s who is, well, he's mental. The work he's probably best known for is Dante's Inferno and the fucking Bible. Granted, you know, there's been many Bibles, but still he did one of them. And here's some of the best illustrations for that type of work that I've seen at least. And he mainly did kind of wood carvings. That's not the actual term, it's basically like you carve to print. I forgot the actual name of it. But he did those all the time, so most of his work isn't paintings. But he did have a few paintings, he did do you know, a fair bit of stuff. This work in particular, as far as I'm aware, it was never officially named, and it's really hard to get a date on this. Like, the most precise date I've found was 19th century, which is useless information because Dore's entire lifetime was in the 19th century, so it doesn't really tell you much. But from what I can find, people refer to this as the Grimacing Pierrot. I'll find out the correct pronunciation of that, but it's a pantomime character, basically. One of the oldest pantomime characters as far as I can find. And so, yeah, it's you know, a very unrefined painting. You can still see the pencil marks, you can see old versions of the costume, like there's a ghost of a hat, which I think was supposed to be a white hat, but he just ended up doing a hairnet instead. So there's hints of that. I need to decide if I'm going to add that in the actual project or not. Part of me wants to do this as like building the physical set that he painted, so like actually having a backdrop behind an actor sat in a chair type thing. But we'll see. I intended on this project being a lot shorter than the last one. I definitely don't want to do a 100 odd hour stream series on this guy, but if it ends up inflating to that long, then I guess we'll have a decent bust out of it. But yeah, so in terms of today's stream, that's pretty much all the information you need to know going in. I'm just going to focus on figuring out what the forms are. The mouth kind of confuses me quite a lot, to be honest. I can't tell if this is a wrinkle or if it's like a really overly expressive mouth corner. It's kind of hard to tell what's going on. The lighting is naturally quite contrasty and one-sided, so a lot of it's in shadow. Although technically this doesn't make much sense with the lighting that's here, but still. In terms of the mouth, the best ref I could find of what I interpret this as is this guy. It's not exactly the same, but you get the general idea. Is like just a tongue kind of sat back. Yeah, I feel like we can have a fair bit of fun with this. There's not many photo refs I could find online in terms of period correct stuff. So I've not done a huge reference hunt either at the moment. I'm just going to kind of figure out forms and find ref based on that. But yeah, so this is the character. I think it's called Pierrot. Obviously French word, so I'm useless at pronouncing it. But in terms of the costume, it's pretty much entirely like draped cotton for the most part. And these kind of baubles, they varied quite a lot in material. These ones look like it's just filled cotton ball. Others are more furry looking. So we've got quite a bit of research to do. And then there's someone else in a similar costume from roughly the same date and time. But yeah, the main bits of research I need to look into is the fact that obviously it's a French character from pantomime in the 1800s. So I'm going to see what I can find in terms of, you know, period correct stuff and making it all right. There's also the question of, is this an old man who's not been able to quit his job because, you know, poverty and all that sort of stuff, or is it something else? I don't know. It could be someone who's, as my nan pointed out, it could be someone who's had a stroke, for example. So yeah, we'll find out what's going on with that. But in the meantime, I'm just going to get sculpting. Keep this on screen for this first stream. I'll move it off screen in a different stream. We're just going to figure out the head, and then we can worry about scale and all that sort of stuff at a later point. Although we will need to move that to the other side. But yeah, if anyone has any questions, as always, feel free to ask. Since we're in the early days of this project, I am still excited to do it, so it should go a little bit quicker than the other project. But yeah, we'll just start figuring out some shapes. And I have no idea how well this project will go. As always, I try not to hold high hopes for my projects before I've really started them. So yeah, we'll see what we can get out of this guy. Having the ref on screen does really bother me. I prefer to have it off screen. I'm just going to move it to the other screen. But obviously I can kind of periodically show it back on screen again if you guys want. So, and there's also the thing of the asymmetry of this guy is pretty crazy. So we need to figure out how far are we going to take asymmetry on this. Because I could do asymmetry from the start, but honestly I'd really rather not. I don't feel like I'm a good enough modeler to do asymmetry from the start and make something that feels natural. Or at least I'm not a good enough modeler to do that in any human lifespan. So let's see, let's see how far we can get with symmetry. We could probably get relatively far, but there's asymmetry on seemingly everything, and that should bring the ref back on screen for a moment. So there's asymmetry, like the cheekbones to me feel like completely different volumes. The mouth is obviously pulled high on one side. One eye is completely wide open. One is basically welded shut. Like everything is asymmetrical. So there's only so far we can get with symmetry turned on. But it's a case of, okay, pipeline wise, do we, model and retopo something fully symmetrical and then break symmetry and like have that symmetrical model there for texturing purposes? Or there's a million ways we can take it, really. So get that back on the other screen. And let's just see what the hell we can figure out. So I'm just trying to sort out stuff on my other screen. Cool. So not sure how long the stream today will be, but we'll see. And let's go to geometry. 128. But yeah, this project, so as I said earlier, I plan on this project being a much smaller one than my usual, at least what's become usual for me, which is 4 or 5 months. I do plan on this one being considerably shorter than that. Obviously that plan can change if it ends up being a project that is worth spending the extra time on, then sure, why not? But the reason I kind of want to keep it a short project is, one, the previous project was so damn long. Like, it honestly was so demotivating to still be on the same project after 6 months in your free time. Obviously you get that sort of timeline in professional work, but personal work I much prefer shorter projects. But there's also the other thing of, I have another project that I kind of want to do, which will by a mile be the biggest project I've ever personally done, including group projects at university and that sort of stuff, in terms of like pure asset count and the amount of character work that needs to be done, which is another Gustave Dore painting about some circus performers. I don't have a hope in hell of pronouncing the name. So I've shown it in the last stream, the last, what's the name? The last one of Sticky Monsters. But yeah, it's a really cool painting, a project that I wanted to do for years and just kind of never got around to. Hey Oscar, how you doing, man? Let's change this Dynamax resolution. Let's do 256. I don't know why I stick to the square numbers thing when doing Dynamax, because it really doesn't matter, but you don't have to worry about min mapping or anything like that. But yeah, I'm doing well, man. How are you doing? Actually, while I'm at it, I should put a link to Gustave Dore just so there's a, a little link in the comments. That's the work. So if you want it on the side of your screen or whatever, if you're actively watching this, which I don't always recommend, to be honest. I feel like these are much better suited as a background. But if you do want to watch this stuff actively, then that's the main ref. Well, the ref, I guess. Yeah, one thing I want to kind of figure out with this project is, do I want to do like a full body that's posed and you just render the top half, or do I want to do, just a head? Because again, there's the whole thing of, if I want this to be a short project, then minimizing work is key. But I don't want to minimize work at the cost of actual project quality. Because ultimately these live streams are a way for me to do the type of work that I really want to do, which you can't always do professionally. Which for me is, I really enjoy spending a long time on details that no one will ever see. It's just something I particularly enjoy for some reason. Could be because I'm an idiot, who knows? A couple of health related issues coming up. Oh no. It's past medical age, 30. Yeah, passing 30. I'm not looking forward to that. Sorry to hear all that, man. I'm guessing you've got like painkillers and stuff to help out. Glad to hear making progress on the poly modeling, man. It's not the easiest thing to learn, that's for sure. Now we'll just keep the mouth relatively open. And is it even worth sculpting it with the mouth open? Or is it worth sculpting it mouth closed for easier retopper? I mean, we could always sculpt it symmetrically until like literally right up until before retopper, then break symmetry and just kind of, wrap the geometry later. As in like make an easier model and then pose it. Why is his jaw widening his cheekbones? Increase that. Let's go 400. Oh no, let's go 512. Let's keep a pattern while we're at it. There we go. I like to sculpt at really high poly counts early on, which isn't what I recommend for any beginners who watch these. The only reason I sculpt at such a high poly count early on is because I've learned how to actually control my model, which takes a long time to develop. So if you're early on in your sculpting and you're starting with, in my case, 750,000, definitely lower it until you've got a stronger sense of forms. And there is also an argument to be made of no matter how strong your sense of forms are, no matter how strong your sense of forms are, it is easier to manipulate a low poly model. So I see a new project is, right? Yeah, it's a new project. This one, I mean, you can go back to the beginning of the video for like an explanation as to what it is. But it's just a painting by an artist I really, really love. And it's sometimes referred to as the Grimacing Pierrot, which is a, what's the name of it? It's a pantomime character. Which, as far as I could tell, though I didn't read up on it for very long, it was a real person. As in, not this drawing specifically, but the character Pierrot is based on a real guy. And over the years, like, his role became so generic that it just became a character for pantomimes. Like, it became so well known and so kind of overdone almost that, I mean, this may be a really bad misrepresentation of the history of it, but as far as I could tell from the limited research I did, that's the general setup to this guy. He looks way too happy. Top lip is too short, right? Let's just break symmetry for a moment. Yeah, this project's gonna be a nightmare for figuring out what the fuck the face is doing. I haven't seen that picture yet. I wanted to say that before. So I've put it in the comments, or in the live chat, but this is the picture. There's a few kind of creative things to figure out, like how faithful do I want to be to the sketch marks? Like, do I want to actually find a way to put that in? How faithful do I want to be to the hat that he was going to draw before replacing it with a skull cap or like a hairnet type thing? There's a few creative questions to figure out, but they are things that we can figure out along the way rather than worrying about right away. Oh. There we go. I feel like the inflate tool is the most underrated sculpting brush. It just gives you forms for free sometimes. Granted, not all the time, just still. Let's get some ears on there. Ears is something I used to hate sculpting so much, but over time I've kind of learned to love them. Like, they're so fun. Digging the elevator music in the background. I love it when people call it elevator music. Yeah, I really, really enjoy this type of music. In fact, this particular song at the moment is one of my favourites. One of the guys who kind of plays on this song is a guy called Magnus Clausen. His Instagram is an absolute amazing place to go for guitar players, because he's just so fucking good at like making melodies sound amazing, like just great. Also, how are you doing, Chloe? You doing well? Oh god, it's Becca. Oh no. I know this mouth is going to give me so many issues. I think it's going to give me issues right until the moment I break symmetry, and then I'll actually be able to match the damn thing. It's such a small mouth as well. Almost finished your final year unit. Yeah, I don't envy you being in that position again. I'll say again as if you've been there before. What I mean is I don't envy anyone who's going through that, because yeah, final year uni was not a nice time. I basically lived in the university labs. Right, so fun fact about earlobes, and ears in general really. So earlobes, I can't remember what the percentages are. I think it's something like 30% of the population, their earlobes are completely free hanging, and the other 30% they attach directly into the head. So what I mean by that is, well, it's 30% and 7%. So whichever way around the numbers are, whatever percentage, some people are like that, where it connects directly on, and then some people are like this, where it just hangs and connects. Obviously there's like realms within that, but that's a really good area to kind of check your references. Does it have a hanging earlobe, or is it a fully connected one? In the case of this guy, it seems to be a hanging earlobe, because I can see like a up slant there. This form here doesn't make any sense, so I'm wondering how I'm going to do that. But yeah, so we'll see kind of how that goes. His cheekbones are too wide. Also, mine feels possibly older than the real. On a scale of 1 to 10, how much will you diverge to your Native American sculpt? I mean, all my old man sculpts start off looking the same. Setting animation stuff. Setting animating stuff for my film now. So. Yeah, Becca's right actually, is once you finish a uni you do end up missing it quite a lot. Which is weird because while you're doing it you're like, oh no, fuck this, I don't want to do this ever again, but then you look back and you're like, life was so simple. Like, it was stressful but simple. Like the sense of community that universities have, I don't think any studio will ever replicate. Because it's just like born out of pure suffering. Like there's nothing else, you know, in a professional environment there's a lot of, you know, overtime and stuff, but there's so many different motivations going on, whereas in uni everyone's got the same motivation, is not fail. So there's like this extra little level of camaraderie in it. This random seam in the middle of the nose. There we go. His nose has been pulled tight. Is that actually a thing that happens? Does the middle of your nose get pulled down if you pull your top lip in? And that looks more correct to the ref, but that's super weird looking. People with connected earlobes are supposed to be more intelligent. That would be amazing. Imagine the shit the internet would pull if that was actually proven. In fact, I don't want to imagine what the internet will do if that was proven. Human race is already screwed. So we're 20 minutes in so far. Something's happened with the speed of my sculpting. Without much practice, like my sculpts have got a lot quicker recently. I don't particularly know why, because I've not done anything new. I guess it's pure time, like internalizing shapes and stuff, but still. To trim that up a bit. Oh, I need to trim the skull down too. I've done his cheekbone as if it's hollow, but it's really not. More like that, like really sunk in there. Also, I fucking love what the clay build-up brush does if you have the Alpha 6. It makes such nice shapes. I can't remember who I got this from in terms of like the idea to use this brush. I think it's from a Flip Normals tutorial. I think it was Henning's trick. It gives such a nice look to it if you have the right number of polygons. And pressure sensitivity. Which is one thing actually quite often, like I find that the clay build-up brush can do a lot if you're just really careful on your pressure sensitivity. Like a Wacom isn't an on-off switch, it's not like a mouse. But it took me so long to realise that, like actually understand it. Like more often than not now I use the clay build-up as a smooth rather than actually just holding shift and smoothing. This needs to be higher up, doesn't it? It needs to be more like that. Hooked noses are something I do too many of, but his nose is such a weird shape. Like that. Hard to tell, is his nose being pulled down, like that kind of shape, or is it really, really bulbous at the bottom? Not bulbous, like hanging. Is it more like that kind of thing? Smooth that in. I think that's more accurate. Once we get tongue in there, this mouth will make a bit more sense as well, actually. Let's just get a few lines in there. Also, something I try to do from time to time is use the dam standard as like an actual sculpting brush. I try to get more concave forms, not just lines of it. Because it can do some interesting stuff sometimes. Granted, not all the time, but there's times like here, for example, where I find it gives quite an interesting effect, because it really digs in. Like nothing digs in quite like the clay, quite like the dam standard. Let's push the ears a little bit further, and we'll get some shoulders in there. Just inflate. So, side view. Let's fix that first. Dig straight into the head. Let's get the angle. Let's go like a drill. There we go. Smooth that out. Sometimes I do have to use smooth, as much as I don't normally enjoy doing so. So, let's start getting some shapes in there. So I'm currently at the stage where I just force shapes. Like I don't care about the anatomy as much. I'm just really digging the brush in to force out the things I want to see. Almost treating it more like drawing than sculpting. So I find that gets me to planes quicker than actually trying to sculpt the forms from the beginning. Standard brush. So things like that we can fix really easily. Let's just get the inflate again. Flatten the lobe out a bit. I tend not to push much further than where it currently is without rev. As in like doing a specific ERF hunt. I could push it further, like technically, but I just prefer not to, because it's a bad habit just to rely purely on what you know. especially since there's so much like variation within people. Alright, so let's thin out that ear a bit. So what I'm doing right now is I'm pushing a little bit from one side, push a little bit from the other, and over time that kind of like thins the shape without it being too forced. Because you could technically just go in with a pinch brush and thin it out that way, but I really prefer to do it a bit more manually. I find it easier to control that way. Let's get the earlobe hanging. And you're completely in the wrong place. Okay, so that's starting to happen. So, tip number 1, if I do this, it's going to pull this from the other side, right? So, what you can do is if you go into Brush, Auto Masking, Brush, Auto Mask, go to Backface Mask, and then I can sculpt this to my heart's content, and the back faces are not affected, which is really helpful. It means that the brush acts really weirdly on thin areas, because it doesn't know. Like, well, it does know, but humans are really bad at kind of understanding, you know, the same way computers do. Or at least this human, me, is really bad at understanding the way that computers do stuff. So I tend to find that I assume auto-masking will do something that it won't. It's a very angular looking ear. So now we've got all the forms in place, because at this point I've not really focused on anatomy as much as I've just kind of wanted to get the forms in place. So now is when I go in and actually correct it to the ref. So let's pull this in. Let's get that shape. He's more like that. Then the inner ear is a bit larger back here. A bit flatter at front, which is a bit more normal, to be honest. So and then let's do that. So you need to be pinched. This little bit of cartilage here, so you got this little Y shape that like everyone knows about. That little piece of cartilage is so much sharper than you'd expect, at least in most people. It also connects a bit further in than you'd expect. So I tend to at least try to do like this kind of shape. Also, the ear is a place where using the smooth brush is incredibly helpful. Because it gives, like, the smooth brush gives you like a bumpiness, but it's a very non-artificial feeling bumpiness. I think we need to reduce the volume again. That might be far enough on the ear to like start something going. Let's just fix the squareness. So let's blend that in a bit. Right now I'm operating purely on what the painting shows me. And then what I can do is later on, once I've figured out what I think the painting looks like, I can look for reference. So that seems kind of backwards, but the issue that I have, if I search for reference too early, I end up not matching the painting. If I sculpt obviously without reference, I'll end up with something that doesn't feel natural, because I can't make things feel natural without proper ref. So the way I like to handle this kind of project is I'll start the way that I've started, where I've only got the painting as ref, and I'll get as far as I can based on, like, you know, loose bits of information that I remember about anatomy. My main concern is matching the lines and the volumes from the painting. And then later on, once I have a more solid idea as to what those forms are. Because when I just look at the painting, I can't figure stuff out. But if I look at the painting, then the sculpt, I can start to be like, oh, well, a little bit more volume, a little bit less. And slowly but surely, I understand what I think I see. So once I've got a sculpt from the painting, I can start to look at that sculpt and be like, okay, well, now let's find ref that looks kind of like this kind of mouth and this kind of ear. And then I can use the ref to push it that final bit. It's not a perfect workflow. Definitely not one I'd recommend, but for me it works pretty well. At least I think it works well, so it's the one I go with. That angle sucks. Also, his mouth is a very strange shape. Right, so let's just get a sphere in there for the torso. And let's split that out into separate subtool for now. Then we can do a mirror and weld in this, geometry, modify topology, mirror and weld. So now we can just pull this to be like a general body shape. I'm not going to worry about, exact, measurements or anything. I just want something in place to kind of give me context for the, give me more context for the head, which is so important. It's a word that I probably overuse, to be honest, but context is really fucking important. It's like, the reason I use that word all the time is I try to not give myself too much credit on forms. Like, I could look at this head and be like, oh yeah, these forms are great, but the moment I add rib cage, I'll see all my issues with it. I find that is a much easier way to work. It's like, having those other parts kind of tells you what you're doing wrong. Like the neck being too wide next to the body, for example. And again, this is an iterative process. This first head will likely be... why is this happening? Let's just lower the... I could do... Let's just do a zero mesh. This is taking a really long time for a zero mesh. There we go. So while we're at it, let's save the scene. So projects, personal work, Gustave Dore, Pierrot, Grin, 01, modeling, new folder, ZBrush, I need to rename the project, I just remembered. Cool. I'm picturing this guy as quite a malnourished person. So let's just block out some. I'll need to measure out the spine to do that properly, but that will do for now. Kind of stretch some skin between the bones. Which the smooth brush is good at doing. It's like making it feel like something's under the surface. There we go. And let's just smooth that into the head. Which is a really weirdly nice thing that ZBrush does, is the way that it sculpts two meshes that intersect is really helpful for like blending. Because it kind of like follows the normals of the mesh above it. So you can get blends really easily. Stuff like that. And let's get the get the skeletal landmarks in there. Again, not worrying too much about, you know, precise shapes, just getting something in place. His chest might be a bit overdeveloped, but ripped grandpa. Front head of the delt comes from there, middle head comes from around here somewhere, rear head comes from over there, and it's tendon, it's all that. So there's my very, very rough anatomy. I need to learn the anatomy in this like pit area, because honestly I have no fucking clue what the anatomy down there does. But now having this like ref physically in place, I should probably get a ribcage correct. But once we got this kind of working, we can start getting the neck muscles in, which is why I wanted to get a basic torso. And I'm just getting a basic rib cage in there. I think this angle's wrong, but we'll figure that out. So once you add shoulders, his head is a little bit too wide, which means, strictly speaking, that the torso is too small. Because I'm not trying to use the head as like the main ref. Something like that is a bit more accurate. And let's move it. Definitely needs to be thinner, doesn't it? I need to look into, I really need to learn the anatomy in this area, because it doesn't make any sense to me. As in like, not as in I don't understand it, as in I just don't even know where to start. I don't know what muscles are there, I don't know how this area is formed. I know that you got the trapezius back here, clavicle. I know that the sternocleidomastoid attaches here, here, and across this a little bit. But beyond that, you know, that fills out all of this area, but it doesn't feel like what's in between, and that really troubles me, like not knowing that. Because it's such an important area, like it's the bit of the torso that is closest to the head. Let's just get the process in there. So this little bit of the skull, if I remember correctly, is called the mastoid process. And it's basically just like a little hook on your skull that the sternocleidoid, fuck, what's that middle word? The sternocleidoid, I can't say it. Sternocleidomastoid, there we go. The nice thing about that muscle is it's a really identifiable muscle, like visibly, because it's just the one that goes along the side of your neck, like the famous one. And its name literally just tells you where it attaches. Like its entire name is attachment points. So it's sterno, as in sternum, claudo, as in the clavicle, mastoid, as in the mastoid process of the skull. It's a really helpful little muscle. As far as I know, it's the only muscle where its name is just attachment points. Like it doesn't tell you anything else. You know, because things like the biceps, it tells you that there's 2 of them, triceps tells you there's 3 of them, but the sternocleidoid doesn't really tell you other than attachment points, which is ultimately all you need, but still. The attachment points are the most important aspect of a muscle, in my opinion. Granted, I'm not a professional modeler, so as far as modeling goes, I'm basically a hobbyist. Yeah, so the way this muscle goes, so it attaches down here to the sternum, but there's also like kind of a little sheet that comes out to the sides, like so I think it is 2 muscles. One just lies on top of the other, and the one that lies on top is the one that goes to the sternum. So it's like, it's vaguely this. Obviously when I like combine these 2 meshes is when I can actually go into detail and refine the shape, but for now that should be enough blending. I do want to learn more about the muscle though, so I don't know how it works. All I remember is the stuff that the name tells you, because when that was pointed out to me I was like, oh. Oh yeah, another note about that muscle is from the side it should be pretty much vertical. So if I do that, it's now vertical. Right, enjoy dinner, Chloe. Okay, so the nose should be pulled kind of down a bit, right? I need to learn so much about expressions while I do this. That crease is going to be pulled to basically nothing, right? Logically that makes sense, like the crease is going to be flattened out because it's being pulled. There's the plane change. That inflate's not doing me any justice, has it? It looks like this guy's got quite developed, whatever this form is, it kind of blends into the side of the nose. It looks quite developed to me. I need to figure out when we're going to open the eyes. That earlobe isn't hanging enough, is it? Also might be sticking out too far, as in terms of the actual ear as a whole. Well, let's just inflate the earlobe and then move it down. And let's have it as a hanging lobe. Me too, I'm hungry, enjoy stream. Thanks man, and enjoy your food. Hope everything sorts itself out as well, by the way, that's good. Hope you're doing alright man. So who else is watching at the moment? We're down to 4 viewers. So I'm guessing Becca is one of them. And Ian maybe? Oh, Francisco and Ian maybe? We should get a tongue in there, shouldn't we? Subtool, split unmasked. And let's just go. Where is it? Transparent. I always lose it for some reason. Is that what the tongue is doing when you're gurning? As you know, modelling the tongue this entire way down is entirely important and isn't just wasting time. That's not what the tongue is doing. Let me check that ref. I can't actually tell what that's doing. Is that like... Is the tip of the tongue pointing up? It is, right? Because we're seeing the bottom of the tongue. That's a little, like, attachment thing that grosses me out. Let's try that. I mean, that makes sense. It doesn't make sense for it to be pointing down. That would mean raising the middle of your tongue, which I'm not sure is physically possible. I'm sure it is. I'm sure there's many people out there who do. Maybe snake hook. Yeah, okay. Is it just someone doing that? That looks like that could be what's going on. So this guy has no teeth, I guess. Which means it's just gums down there. His lips are way too inflated, holy shit. Keep doing that. This pen. Probably save, it's been a while. I've disabled saving, right? I've disabled saving history. Some preferences. Quick save. Oh, that's not what I want. Undo history, sorry. Enable saving. Turn that off. That helps keep the file sizes down. They were the same size before, and now they're still the same size, so apparently it's bullshit. Alright. Don't know what to believe anymore. Yeah, it's a bit more volume. So let's start getting that skull shape. He's got quite a narrow skull by the looks of the ref. It's also, as much as I'm going to get rid of all this stuff later, let's just quickly reinforce some of this stuff. Just so we can enjoy the shapes while they're still relevant. So I find this sort of like mid-frequency stuff like makes things feel a lot more natural. What shape should that be doing? I think it should be more like pinched in at the side. And like rounder maybe? And that actually marks where the top of his gums are, right? Or the top of his... You know what I mean? But that should be the back of his gums. Like that. One thing I'm really looking forward to in this project is doing the face paint, like as a shader. I feel like that could be really fun. I just need to find out how the fuck they painted their faces in like 1850s France, which is a oddly specific bit of information I need to find out for this project. How did they paint their faces in the 1850s during French pantomime? So one of the things I find quite funny about being a CG artist is like most CG artists know completely arbitrary, useless bits of information just because there's that one project once that required them to know something really obscure. And honestly, this is one of my favourite bits of the job. There's so many just tiny things that you have to randomly know. For example, like during my time on, as a really specific bit of information. During my time on Dumbo, I realized that the hairs on the forehead of an elephant, and this isn't a specific bit of information, this is more just like something I realized while looking at Ref, but the hairs on the forehead of an elephant are like so uniform. Like, it's ridiculous. They're all like perfectly spaced, like the same exact distance between hairs. It's kind of weird. It's just one of those really small things. It's like, that will never be important information in my entire life, but it's something I know. It could have just been a case of, you know, the specific elephants I looked at happen to have that, but it's not a thing. That could also be it, but it's so like weird, all these little things. There's a weird bump in the ref that I don't know what it is. It's this. Like, structurally, I don't understand that. It's not bone. But his head feels weirdly wide here as well. But there's something going on here. I mean, I can mimic it, but I kind of want to find out what it is. Let's just add it in. We'll find out what it is later. And Gustave Dore is not exactly a painter who doesn't know what he's doing, so I'm gonna trust a very prolific artist from the past to know what they were doing. Also, if you haven't heard of Gustave Dore before, I didn't know of him before the final year of university. He's not exactly a famous artist in the modern sense. But he's such a good artist to look into for visual inspiration. He's so damn good. He's someone who, hopefully, I'll do more work based on his in the future. Assuming that this project isn't an absolute clusterfuck to work on. Which it could be. We're in the very early stages of this project. Everything could still go wrong. I do look forward to breaking symmetry in this guy, that's for sure. need to fix the back ears. They're fucked. Something I'm not looking forward to at all is retopologizing this guy. I could reuse my FK Twigs mesh. Can project that back to this guy, but I don't know. Part of me, I'm a bit of a purist or elitist or whatever you want to call it, but I really like doing like stuff that's specific to that project. I don't like reusing stuff too much, which is dumb. Like, it's incredibly dumb. It only slows me down, and if you reuse stuff, it allows you to push the quality of those reused things because you're not wasting time on doing it over and over. But there's something about like making bespoke topology for this sort of stuff that I really enjoy. But then at the same time, I hate doing it, so bit of a catch-22. Let's fix the shape. So we're 1 hour in so far to the project. Oh, I need to change my focal length. I tend to work in a 80mm lens, which means I've gotten used to how form should look in 80mm. A little bit less hollow. And a little bit too deftly. Nostrils are too wide. In fact, yeah, that nose is fucked. Nice and creepy. Let's get a eye in there. Around that size. We can get actual measurements for the eye once we go to real world scale. Generally the eye is like 2.4 centimeters. It's not 2.4 centimeters. What am I remembering? The eye is definitely smaller than people realise. Also, what am I looking for now? Oh yes, split. Split unmasked. So, let's go to transparency mode. Bring these together. They need to be closer together, don't they? Something like that. So there should be an eye in between, which is just about, and then there should be an eye either side. So that's roughly the right eye size. Oh. So let's match the eyes to that. And obviously there's a lot of variation within that, but it gives you a good starting point. Which is what a lot of this shit is, really. It's like, a lot of these measurements that people give you isn't the rule, it's just the norm. Feels like it needs to be slightly smaller, which means that this needs to be slightly bigger, right? Also, eyelids are much thicker than you probably realize. Looks way too happy. I need to do something to crush this guy's soul. So let's just quickly go and color fill object. Color fill object. Oh. Color fill object. And then this guy, let's go to MRGB. Toy plastic. Color fill object. Alright, so let's quickly sort out this first. I can't have him looking this happy for too long. If my work ever looks happy, I'm doing something wrong. God, he just got more happy. Jesus. Let's quickly paint the eyes while we're at it. Let's go transparent. Cool, keep the softness of that because it makes it feel really milky. Let's pick that colour, make it much richer. let's go super rich. Fill out. Let's darken that back in. There we go. Back to eye sculpting. We've had one more quick change. Basically just painting in a little bit of ambient occlusion right now. Should probably make it a little bit brighter too. Let's pick that color, shift it up. Just nah, I don't like that. Let's keep it that dull color. Right, so for Axis, how you doing? I don't recognize your username, so yeah, welcome to the channel. If you have any questions, do feel free to let me know. His eyes are too small, aren't they? I'm really struggling to figure out because his eyes are fucking crazy. Like this one's going to be actually relatively easy to get, but these are ridiculous. Like he's got really, oh that's what I'm missing. Our bottom lids are too straight and also too thick. Okay. Hey Nick. Now I've got to be disappointed at you, right? Eyes are definitely too small and beady. But the iris feels about the right size relative to the rest of the eye. Hard to tell what's going on. I know this isn't a realistic shape, I'm just seeing what I can get out of that pinch. Are the eyes too small? As in the actual eyeballs themselves? I think that's what the issue is. Maybe our proportions are too correct in terms of like what you know, what real life would be expected to be. Possibly. Where's the local symmetry? There it is. that could also be the issue, is depth. I really shook him with the eyes on this one. Really shook him with the eyes. Let's get some of that craziness around the rim. Maybe that will help us figure out what the hell's going on. So I'm just gonna match his right eye, i.e. screen left. He just looks so happy. That helps a lot. Still not right, but it helped.
I came from Brazil.
Again, the thing I need to keep reminding myself of is this is iterative. Like, there's not many processes that are more iterative than sculpting. Oh, that's a complete fucking lie, there's loads of things, but you get the point. Well, the bottom lids, you mean? Or you mean kind of the eye socket? Like, you mean this area? Area 1? Or do you mean area 2? Possibly both. That makes him feel a lot younger. Oh yeah, I did that, didn't I? Why do you look so happy and how do I stop it? Area 1 to this guy. This is too full. That needs to be thinned out towards the sides. It needs to feel like it's hanging rather than full. And there we go. perfect symmetry of sculpts in the early stages always hinders. Well, it always feels like it hinders the actual ability to see shapes too. That's just very temporarily. Eye still looks too happy even with the other stuff vaguely in place. Which means that's not the issue. It's actually starting to look like an older, way older version of one of my uncles, which is creeping me out a little bit. Not so you guys won't know who I mean, but. Perfect. Actually, there's something really interesting about those shapes. Not for this character, but could use that in a future character. Oh, I guess one thing I've not factored in is the fact that the eyes are looking over towards the right. They're looking that way. Which would allow me to get away with a bit more on the... Okay. So that could allow that shape. Which might work. To ignore Ivrai. That makes more sense. Okay, so let's undo that until they're both straightened back out. Are the cheekbones too long? They are, aren't they? So now I'm starting to get more Deadpool without the mask vibes. There's something really key that I'm completely missing. Like, not even close to having hit. What shape is it that I'm missing so badly? Let's just quickly paint that mask. As in the hair mask, that is. That's the Colby one. Eyes are too high, maybe? It's weird, 'cause I feel like we had a better looking sculpt about an hour ago. But experience tells me to keep going. Although how did it look about an hour ago? What time is it right now? So here's literally an hour ago. Okay, so maybe not a full hour ago. Right before I opened the eyes is when I felt like it was working better. Yeah, it's not objectively better in this light, it's just my head telling me things I don't want to hear. So, although it did point out there's an issue with the brow, which is this bit needs to be pointing more down. So many made-up shapes here. Let's get rid of you. Get rid of you. Chin's too far forward. can feel myself going into the trap of sculpting what I want to see and not what I actually see, because that line doesn't exist. There we go. Normally I stop sculpting at that point, but I kind of want to keep pushing for a little bit. So he doesn't have any kind of eyebrows, but where would his eyebrows be? There? If he was to paint on eyebrows, what would he draw? Well, this is... like that, maybe. That's what he'd paint. I'm gonna do a little bit of painting. Loud buzz. It looks a lot better without the eyes, which makes me think the eyes are part of the problem. Just quickly check what that buzz was. Don't like this song. Let's get rid of that. There we go. See this, currently this feels like a young man wearing an old man mask. Which is a thing. That's where my main issue is from this thing. It doesn't feel like an old man, it feels like a wrinkly man. But what is it that's doing that? The eyes, isn't it? But what is it? Let's flatten out all of these planes. So ignore that shit. Back to basics. So. That just feels like a zombie. Something to do with the eyes. Because that instantly feels better. What? How have I made... How is that making such a big difference? Two of us together, maybe? This is such a complex fucking emotion to hit. Or expression, sorry, not emotion. Granted, I'm doing it symmetrically, which I shouldn't be, but... This is a tough one. Ace of Sagmar. No, not that. I'm going to do lineups in Critter. It's normally a bad sign that when you undo a lot and you prefer the old version, it's normally not a good sign when you're doing likeness sculpting. I have to look into old skulls. One thing's for sure, that cheekbone is way too big. Ooh, yeah, concave mouth. That was one of the missing pieces. I can't keep saving that frequently. Yeah, that works better. There's still something that really bugs me about these eyes. Is it the thickness of the black ring? Is it adding too much like cuteness? Well, cuteness isn't the word, but that could have been part of the issue. Let's grab some bright yellow. Gonna end the show in about 15 minutes, I think. It's not awful progress for one stream. The eyes are definitely derailing me, like, a lot. It's gonna be one of those things where, like, I'll suddenly realise what they're missing, and everything will be hunky-dory, and everything will be fixed in the world and all that stuff, but until that point, I'm just gonna have to struggle with them until something makes sense. something isn't working, and I don't know what it is. Oh wait, that could be part of the issue. The eyelid angle, as in the shelf itself. I hate that. The angle of the shelf of the eyelid is pointing like down. Maybe if we can lean that upwards, like do that. That helps. So now we can fix the thickness again. Is that what the issue was? I mean, you know, the eye shape still isn't correct, but that might have been part of the issue, because I do feel a bit more human now. Eye shape is killing me. This needs to feel more hollow. Distance to the ears. Not far enough back, is it? let's fix that neck. Mouth is too wide. Head is getting there, slowly but surely. And that's going to be it for the end of this stream though. So we've got started, it's something. I mean, we've gone from a sphere to this, so it's definitely progress. It's obviously better than nothing. There's something really important missing. I haven't figured out what it is, and it's not the asymmetry, there's something else to the pose which I haven't figured out yet. I have a feeling it's something to do with the pull of this mouth, but I don't know. But yeah, so we'll continue obviously on the next stream. That will either be tomorrow or Thursday. I mean, obviously I've already done the first stream of the week, so tomorrow might be just a day to kind of chill out, do my own thing. But there'll definitely be another stream on Thursday unless things go horribly wrong at work, so let's see how that goes. But yeah, I think this project might be fun. Who knows? I certainly don't. And yeah, I hope you guys have enjoyed it or learned something, or at least enjoyed having some kind of background noise. And yeah, I'll hopefully see you again in the... Oh wait, is that it? One sec. That might have been part of the issue. Anyway, yeah, that's going to be it for the end of the stream, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye guys.